Welcome to Legends of the Arena podcast, the intro episode, the what and why. What the heck is this? Why are we doing it? Who are these crazy guys that are interviewing all these people? And so we wanted to do a little quick episode to give you the backstory really quick and introduce our producer, Leo, that no one ever sees, but he's in the background to sort of navigate us through setting this whole premise up. So, Leo, great to actually have you talking for once, because this is fun. This is a fun way of doing this because we've actually already done about 10 episodes. We haven't launched them yet. So we're sort of doing the backstory now after we've been down the path a bit, which actually is a good way of doing it, I think, is it's evolved as we started this, right, Justin?
It has evolved, and this is we're figuring out this is how we do it.
How we do it.
How we do it. And yeah, this was really kind of an inspiration. John and I have become very dear friends, and we share similar passions and interests and learning. And we in a world of divisiveness, etc. You know, I think humanity and people are good by definition, and we want to be inspired. And really, the intent here is to not make money, not do anything around that. It's really about building a network and learning and inspiring and sharing stories and building a collective community around this that are with really good people, not perfect people, but people who have got the stick-to-itiveness, who get up, get knocked down, get back up,
The grit.
and we get to meet great people that have been through a lot, have accomplished a lot, been through lots of challenges, and at the end of the day, adversity is getting through adversity builds grit, and grit is defined as, or it's one of the probably the most important things in success and living a happy, fulfilled life. So we are going to probe lots of different subjects. We are not going to be polarizing, or at least try not to be, and really want this to come from the heart and be a source of goodness, and hopefully people that happen to stumble onto us are interested in it, and we'll get plugged into them.
Yep, absolutely. Love that.
Well, guys, it's great to be here, and thank you for welcoming for this intro episode. And as John said, this is the start, but at the same time, we've recorded some episodes and we do a little bit of a run through of all the conversations that we had so far. So I want to get it going and go straight to the point. When you decided to do this show together, what was the goal with it?
I think that Justin and I both we found ourselves, the conversation whenever we'd hang out. We are very thirsty learners, not just of factual stuff, but we love learning from people specifically in their stories and hearing the journeys, because I think that's where the best life lessons are, and where you gather information. And I think we found ourselves always, and this is not, I think a lot of people have this, but when you hear people's stories and they've been able to achieve something great, I think you always hear a lot of these great stories. But when you actually get to talk to them, a lot of people don't know the long journey and the ups and downs, and like everything that went through. And that's the most fascinating thing, I think, when you think about, that's the good stuff. That's where you're actually learning. Like there's a lot of dangers to success, right? But you don't grow at the peak of the mountain, right? You're growing on the journey up there. And we always gravitate to those conversations and want to hear all those things. And so I think we thought it would just be a great idea to be able to interview all these interesting people that a lot of them we know, some of them that we get to meet for the first time, from all walks of life, and not just business, although we both come from the business world. We wish we both came from the sports world, I think, but we don't. And so we wanted to sort of find these threads that sort of connect everybody. I'm sure Justin will add more beautiful color to that, as he always does. But
no, I think that's right. I think this is a little bit selfish in that when we meet people that have done something, who've been through a lot of tough things and have doubted themselves and ended up brushing themselves up, getting up, continuing to go. It is selfish in the fact of it's inspiring. It's inspiring, and you don't feel as lonely facing, really what you're doing on your own. You feel like you're a part of a community that's trying to get better and trying to do the best they can. Life is hard. It's hard being a a son, a friend, a father, a wife, a daughter, a business person, or a professional athlete, or a someone in the charitable world, or an educator, etc. So it's very inspiring to hear people who have been through the dirt, rolled around in it, come out of it, because you don't feel alone, and really spending more time on that journey, on that process, versus the end result. Because I think as a general society, we celebrate that finite achievement when something was accomplished, versus really having the patience and spending the time really going through the process and appreciating that. And I think we flash a light. I think we have news that covers politics, that covers sports really well, but a little bit on the business side. But I think, listen, we're surrounded by people who do great things for this world, that are great, inspiring people. And this is a chance for us to get to share their stories and be selfish and get inspired by what they're doing. And
Yep.
and we're going to pick different topics. We're not going to try to be polarizing on this. We want really to put ourselves in the shoes of others, and really try to understand where they came from, and develop some empathy, and really work on trying to have discourse around healthy discourse around things where we may agree to disagree initially.
Yep.
And then you learn more, and you're saying, maybe there's a compromising view or a position around
Yeah.
multiple things, whether it be health or longevity, sports, education, literature, music, travel, um, golf. We love golf, and it's like the hardest thing in the world to do, and I'm terrible at it, but love it. So we're gonna have some people that are there, but there is a common thread through all these different people focus on different things, etc. Is they didn't quit, and they kept going. And that's what we want to shine a light on, to learn, to inspire, etc. And build a friend base. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's that easy.
And, and that's where the name of the podcast came from, is behind Theodore Roosevelt's speech, "The Man in the Arena," and the premise of that uh, speech, which is so good, so good. It's my screen on my computer, and I get to look at it every day and remind myself of it. And in the idea of that speech, of people who uh, don't judge, or if you're in the arena, don't worry about the critics, because they're not in the arena sometimes. But for the people who take risks and throw themselves out there in the arena, it can be a bunch of things for people. It could be the people that are going all in on themselves and want to achieve something in sports, in life, in a creative passion that they're going to go for it. When they've got people that are like, take the safe road, right? And just do this. No, they want to bet on themselves and their vision for what they're really passionate about, and believe in themselves. And that's the arena, right? It could be at the multi-billion-dollar company level, and it could be the small entrepreneurial, the first step of doing it. It could be, betting on yourself to be an artist of some way, right? And so, uh, what's fascinating is that's a certain type of person, and there's nothing wrong if you're not a person that is wired to be in the arena. It is not a fun place to be. Like but you either are built and wired because you just like it fuels you, and you like that. And for those people, that's really what this podcast is really built for, because there's nothing better than when you're in the arena of life and you're navigating that to hear stories from other people that you may think is like, oh, this is just me. Because I think that's the trap of being in the arena, right? It's like you think like these obstacles that you're hitting, the stuff that you're hitting, the self-doubt, the should I go this, like everybody goes through that, but you think it's just you. There's multiple times, no matter how many times you do that loop. And so to hear stories of other people and that have they been there, they've got knocked down, they've got bloodied, right? They've got mired, and they pick themselves back up and they go again. And the power of the failure and the learning of that, I think, is very invigorating when you're also in the arena, or attempting or thinking about getting in the arena too, right? Is like, it is a very powerful thing to hear these stories, and it just fuels you. I get fueled up every time we talk to these people and pull that out of them, you know?
You do. And if this is a worthwhile time spent for us, we take time out of our schedules to do this. Really, if we have one person who tunes into this podcast who is in a place where they're doubting themselves, or really struggling with a marriage, or struggling with kids, or struggling with their career, or their dream that they thought they were going to achieve, and it's hard. And if we can give them one glimmer of light and shine it on them, where they can, hey, you know what? I'm not alone. I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep going. If we have just one person, then we've done some good. And I think we all ought to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing to do some good? And, I look in the mirror and say, Justin, you can do more. You can be better. And I think John does too. And
Every day.
we talk a lot about it. And we're learners. So we don't have any of this mastered. We're going to go through this journey with the folks that tune in, and excited about doing it. I've been blessed to meet some incredible people who I've learned from, and that have motivated me. And this is really a kind of a behind the scenes, behind the ropes. If you're sitting sitting across, maybe it's what's my little fireplace, or my fire pit. You're sitting across the fire pit and you got a cigar, and you're like, let's cut the bull crap out. Let's talk about really how hard was that. Let's not just, hey, here's what I want social media to say, look at me, etc. No, let's get into the real shit. You almost quit. Okay. You lied about this because you were afraid of fail, or whatever it is, but really get into it and behind the ropes and learn about people. And I think that's what we want to do across lots of different arenas.
Yeah, well said.
That honesty translates so well on the episodes. Having some episodes recorded now, I think we've seen the guests feeling really transparent about their struggles, and how they battle everything that they've gone through. And these conversations have been it has been really the great meaning of what these people have been going through. Was there something that you guys were expecting that was exactly what happened, or that it was a little bit different once these conversations started to happen, and once you also got the hang of how to have these conversations with people? Because subjects like the ones that we're talking here, they're not easy, especially when you're connecting with the person for the first time, right? As you mentioned, you have people that you've known before, but a lot of the guests also are a first time connection. So was there something to you that stood out in these relationships that you've been building while we were recording these episodes?
John, you want to start?
Yeah. I think the thing that I've been the most surprised about is when we explain the premise of the podcast up front, you see them lean in and light up a bit, and there's been no people, I think, especially when you've gone through that stuff, like and achieved what these people have achieved, which is incredible stuff, the people we've been able to talk to. Man, do they lean into that part? Like they tell a version of their story that you typically haven't heard elsewhere, or that you haven't heard. Like we were talking to a guest yesterday. He's like, I haven't shared most of that stuff before ever on any media platform, and I think people relate to that struggle, and a lot of times people want to just talk about, tell me about the time, what was it like to hold the trophy up? Tell me what it was like to cash your first big check in this. And it's like, yeah, that sounds great, and that's good clickbait, but like the real meat is the stuff of like how they got there. And when you're in the shit of like these situations, you're like, God, just get me out of it. And then you look back on it, and man, do you have pride in it? And you don't get to talk about it a lot. It's not something that's common. And so I think that's been the surprising thing for me is when you tell them the premise, man, do they go there and they really expand on it and tune into it. And I think that's a real fun part of it for me to see.
I think for me, I think developing the trust, that's something that is very precious. And I think loyalty and trust in our relationships is overlooked a lot. I think it's so important. And you see these people, and we're building trust with them. Like, we don't have a hidden agenda. We're not looking to monetize. We're literally looking to learn and to evaluate, get better, improve, etc. And you really see the trust component. And who says you can't be vulnerable? Who says that you can't say, I've got weaknesses, or I've got concerns, or hey, I didn't do this well, I made a mistake? Who said that that's not okay? Because it is okay. It is okay. The champions are the ones who fail the most, and they're honest about it. And that's really true. And when you own, if I have somebody in one of our companies, et cetera, they make a mistake and they really tried hard, we don't, we don't hang them out to dry. Hey, I appreciate you taking risks, because it takes courage to take risks. Now, don't be careless. Let's make sure we're doing that. But hey, I love self-starters. I love folks that are willing to take a risk. And, you look at my background is in business, and you get into big companies and people don't want to take career risk. They're afraid of taking that job. What if I'm a failure? What if, and I think we need to turn that on its head and say, you know what? I'm looking for courage. I'm looking for go-getters who are willing to go. Yeah, you got to be in the right environment. If you're in a terrible company and if you make a mistake, they're looking to make you the villain. But most organizations aren't that way, and I think people are fundamentally good, but we can be better. And I think learning that gives you a lot of strength and courage.
In
100%.
that learning process that you've been going throughout these past months, we've been recording throughout the entirety of the year. What is something maybe actionable that you've seen from these people and that you expect the audience to get as well?
Yeah, I'll start. I think, Dodds Hayden, who we've had on, he brought up the topic of, he learned as a business guy from the CEO of the company that I'm very fond of, that you never walk by a problem. So whether it be a piece of trash in the parking lot, whether it means, something in the produce aisle, or an associate or a team member not treating a customer right, or not greeting someone, or, what have you, don't walk by the problem. And, that, I think that is a very simple thing. There's a lot to that, but I thought that was a great piece. And we have kernels like that throughout the show in different pieces. I think, you look at Rick Prado, who was a special forces guy, was a PJ, worked in the CIA in counterterrorism. He actually was the assistant director of forming the Bin Laden Commission to go bring him to justice, etc. And what jumps out there is you got to have trust and loyalty in a team, and that's got to come first. If you're 1 minute late, people die. If you doubt what that man to the right or that woman to the left of you is going to do, you blink, people die. And I think that you can really learn a lot from that and apply it to your church, your synagogue, your interactions in business, if you're a professor, you're teaching. I mean, there's just so much richness there. If we're intentional, we're awake, we're really learning that, embracing that. And then, we have kernels like that throughout, whether it be around creativity or taking risks, or, how you build a system to be successful in taking a product to market, et cetera. So we've got that throughout. I think it's really good stuff.
Yeah. We try to be very intentional to make sure in the thesis statement for us going into this was that one of the things was there's tangible takeaways for listeners that you can walk away with and feel, do something with it. Like it should inspire and move you. But I would say generally, I mean, there is a long list, Leo, to answer that. I would say the easiest, shortest way for me to say it would be that there is a lot of common themes that you will see that keep popping up, right? The idea of the importance of love for people, right? Like that comes through in a lot. How important that is to be able to succeed in the arena, to win in when you're down, to be able to overcome, and to give more than you take in relationships, put others first, right? The idea of discipline, and believing you can do more than you think you can, and pushing yourself to do that, and not just the high concept of that, but to hear people's stories on what that looks like in all these different forms, from CIA to special forces to Hollywood to sports, of like just taking that. You may think that this peak in front of you is not overcomable, but how these people just force themselves to take that first little step, and the next step after that, and the next step after that, and eventually they're on the other side of the mountain, right? And that's so the themes of these, no matter what walk of life they're in, I think is the powerful thing when you connect the dots and listen to all these. It's very powerful.
We had a guest on who's a professional coach, and he put it to us this way: what if, when you were facing your hardest, hairiest, most bold goal that you're trying to go compete or accommodate or accomplish, etc., what if you were clear, you had intention, and you had no fear, and you just said, I'm going to let it rip. We talk a lot about that in sports, where you want to play fast, play clear, play loose, don't be tight. What if you could do that in your life? And what if you showed up better for husband, your wife, your church, your students, your employees, your partners? What if you could live that way? And that is an enlightened way to live. And it brings purpose and happiness and fulfillment. And no, it's the great stuff of life that we quit really trying to understand and think about, because we get busy with life and we've got so many demands. So if we can shine a light on that, help people get there where they're continuing to dream like they did as a kid. They're facing it with no fear and looking forward to it, and realizing that the process, or the battle is the deal. It's not
Yeah.
the accomplishment. That's a hell of a way to live your life.
Yeah. That's the good stuff.
It's a great definition also of the word legend. I think it matches the show so well, because you talked about the importance of the arena and what happens when you're there. But if we look at the show a little bit, zooming out a little bit, and just looking at what being a legend in this sense means, I think it embraces everything that you guys are talking about. And it's a clear tone for what people can expect from these conversations, because, there's so many legends out there that have been, going through so many things, that the podcast, I think, embraces exactly what this definition would be for them and for us.
I think that's right. And I've carried John knows this, and John and I were fast friends from hello. When I was probably 17 years old, I grew up in Southern Indiana, which is my home. Proud of it. Not fancy, coal mines and cornfields, and no one. I don't think anybody that went to our high school had really any money to speak of, and we were probably poor to lower middle class, and we didn't even know it. All of us. A lot of us that I graduated with didn't go on to college. They chose trade or whatever. But I had one of my tennis coach, Pastor Jeff Stratton, I think turned me on to the man in the arena, and printed it out. I put that in my wallet when I was a 17-year-old kid. put it in there. And for some reason, that the Teddy Roosevelt, I think it was 1913, I think roughly, when he was at the Sorbonne in Paris, gave that speech. It gave me great comfort to say that basically the process of just trying is good enough, and you just do your best, and focus on the process and not necessarily the outcome. And you'd rather be in the game than sitting in the stands watching the game and never playing the game and criticizing people that are in the game of how they could have done better. And we have a lot of that today in social media and on the news. And we're better than that. We ought to be getting perspectives from people that have had the courage, the guts, the stick to itiveness, I'm not failing, I'm going to manifest this. Those are the people we ought to be getting, we ought to be listening to and getting motivated from, not people that, that are name callers on whatever your affiliation is. But let's talk to people that have been there, done it, and had a tough time doing it, and they got all kinds of scars around it. So that poem means a lot to me. And at some point we ought to flash it up here to show people, because I just think it's one of the greats.
Yeah. 100% agree. Could not said it any better.
So, guys, at the end of every episode, you ask the guests what what is something they've been reading or listening to lately or watching. So I want to turn this question to you. What is something that people can, watch, listen, or consume in general that fits the theme of the show? And I think it pairs a little bit with the personality of it.
Some of the things that I have read recently, or some of my favorites, The Gap and the Gain by Sullivan. My trainer gave me that, and I think it's really fabulous, and it really speaks to how you perceive success and how you live in the positive of the improvements you've made, and taking inventory of what you've accomplished versus looking at, maybe a goal that has not been really defined and how hard it will be and how much effort goes into it. You're always measuring against the proverbial or notional Mount Everest. And, you didn't show up with any picks or any ropes or oxygen, and you're just kind of show up in bare feet, and you compare yourself to, well, I'm not at the peak. Well, you're not prepared to. You don't have the right tools. You haven't put the investment in. You haven't studied it. So how about you say, let's measure, hey, you got to base camp, and you base camp in notionally with bare feet, with no rope. I mean, that's a hell of an accomplishment, right? With no Sherpas or Sherpas taking you up, etc. So thinking about where you've come from, and then letting that be a sense of pride and a sense of motivation to say, that's a good accomplishment. I'm going to build on that, versus looking at the top and saying, I haven't reached the summit yet. So I think that's a very good book. Read Black Ops by Rick Prado, which was really, really good. Atomic Habits, James Clear, is very, very good. Trillion Dollar Coach by Eric Schmidt is quite good. It's about coaching and managing and taking. He was a football coach in the Ivy Leagues, and ended up going. Bill ended up going and being a great executive coach to a lot of the Silicon Valley startups. So that's a good one. Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. It's a little tough to read for me, but very good about stoicism and really how you control your perception and your consciousness about what's happening to you. And I think that just allows you to take on more and have a better perspective of it. You just feel like you're a little bit more in control of your emotions and what's happening to you. And I think that gives you a really good sense. I'm constantly asking people around what they're reading, and those are some of the more self help books, et cetera. And then there's fiction, and I'm a big fan of Nick Saban. I think he's done something that is absolutely incredible what he did in college football. I don't think it'll be done again in the NIL, but really, it's not the tactics or that. I'm really impressed by the psychology and the way he dealt with 18-year-old to 22-year-old men, getting them motivated in a world that's very difficult and very competitive, and getting them to be so consistent, where he won 6 national championships. If you can't find things there around his process, the way he prepared, et cetera, that you can't apply to any other kind of business or charity, et cetera, you're missing the point. So he's motivating. There's a lot of great coaches out there that I think you can learn from. That's always been an inspiration. There are great generals out there. You can look at Eisenhower, Patton, MacArthur, and Grant, and Robert E. Lee, and how they prepared, et cetera. There's sources of things that can motivate you, incent you, give you a different way of thinking about something to apply to a problem or a situation. That I think that's really the neat thing, pulling things from other things, applying, and have pattern recognition doing it. And, my world, it's business and investing.
Yep, love that. I would, from my side, I would say definitely some on Justin's side for sure. I mean, all those are amazing. $1 Trillion Leader and James Clear, Atomic Habits are incredible books. I would say Ryan Holiday on the Stoicism side is a great simple way of consuming meditations and anything. Marcus Aurelius for sure, highly recommend Stoicism. That is a big breakthrough, and I think how to navigate a lot of things. I love people who just think differently about things. So on the business side, Simon Sinek, Brene Brown, Rory, like, even though Rory's a marketing genius, the understanding of human psychology and people, I think, is amazing. Chase Hughes recently was going down some rabbit holes with some interesting ways of how he thinks. I love psychology in general. And then special forces, I've been obsessed with for a long time in CIA. I just think it's fascinating, that culture, and specifically even the different. Sean Ryan's a great podcast for anybody who's interested in that. But there's some fascinating things about studying the difference even between Delta and SEALs in the benefits of all these, but what the commonality of how that works and how you translate that to life, families, business. Like, there's some really fantastic fundamentals of how you create culture and the importance of dealing with that. So yeah, but probably my quick short list at the moment.
Longevity. We talk a lot about longevity.
Oh yeah.
How do we have a really great health span where, we can make a difference and lead a wonderful, a really happy filled life for longer, and do good and enjoy what you're doing, and giving back and having fun, exploring, seeing new things. So Gary Brecka, I spend a lot of time on his podcast, et cetera. I think he lives in South Florida. So we'll, maybe we can get some folks on the longevity front to come and talk with us too.
Absolutely. Be amazing.
That's great, guys. That's great. Well, for everyone that's still listening to the episode, it's important to highlight that we're coming out with 2 episodes besides this intro one at this first launch date. So, you can watch it and you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere where you get your podcasts. You have a chance to watch it. And we have the video versions. We have promotional content coming out as well. But the podcast will come out on a frequency of 2 episodes a month. So every other week, there's a new legend for you to meet and a story for you to learn from. And, if the stories are touching you and connecting with you, make sure that you share that with people, not for, visibility of the show, but really sharing the message of what these people are bringing to the show, because these conversations, they're really important. I can tell personally as well, having the opportunity to be at all the recordings or most of the recordings with you guys, I feel so connected with these people that come on the show, and sometimes people that I've met even before. I've just felt so great to have the opportunity to listen to them talk to you for an hour and a half. So for everybody that will listen to the show, make sure that you share the message that you're learning from it. And, if you want to reach out and send us a message, tell what you think, we have all the channels open for you to contact and interact in any way possible. And any final words before we wrap up this intro, guys?
The show comes from a good place. There's no ulterior motives. It comes from really a thirst to learn by John and I, and we learn things, and we think, gosh, if we can learn from that, maybe some other people would love to hear that too. And behind the ropes kind of thing with people that have done interesting things and been through difficult situations and come through the other side and be motivating. That's really it. And certainly would love to hear from people, their thoughts and interests and topics, etc. John will take it on a whole host of topics that we're interested in, but as our friend base, which is why we consider a lot of folks that are watching this, as they're interested in things, let's hit it, let's attack it, and wrestle it down, understand it better, and hopefully we leave the world a little bit better place, a little happier, a little more filled with purpose, and feeling better about itself.
Yeah, give people the extra fire they need and knowledge and push to achieve and navigate whatever they're dealing with at the moment or trying to pull off. So, no, we're very excited. I can't wait to see how this resonates and to keep talking to these more fascinating people.
Life's tough, but man, if you can grab a couple of these things and put them in play and write them down, put them in a journal, and focus on them. Man, they've helped. Yeah. They've helped us. They've helped us get through
absolutely
stuff. And life is tough.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Justin. And we're excited to launch the show officially now and having the episodes come out. So again, make sure you check it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, usually everywhere where you get your show. And I appreciate you being here and giving us this introduction and telling a little bit about what the show is, and looking forward to see it in next recordings as well.
Yep.
Absolutely.
We're great.
Let's do it.
We're grateful for the opportunity, and this is John and I are funding this ourselves, and this is going to be fun, and we can't wait. So hopefully you enjoy it too.